Alright guys, you saw the title in this video. In this video, I'm literally going to be talking about one of the most chaotic chess games I have ever seen. And if you're wondering guys, yes, this is the first video I'm ever making on chess. But before I start this video, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and sub, as I would help the channel a ton. If you really enjoyed this video, you can also drop super thanks. Without further ado, let's kind of just begin. So basically guys, before I start this video, we're just going to mention like what this was played with very much. By the way guys, I also have the evaluation bar over here, in case you're interested with that. And number one, guys, this game was kind of just played on a 10-minute setting, and it was played between two people in Qatar and Austria. And now, we're just going to start. So basically, guys, the game starts off with pawn to d4, played by white. Now, usually with pawn to d4, there's usually a lot of responses you can play as black, like maybe you can develop a knight, or maybe you can just sacrifice a pawn. I'm not really sure, maybe this is a gambit or something. But usually, the best response, in my eyes at least, is to also just push the pawn on the d file. And that's what black does. And then white develops the knight. And this is actually a pretty good move because it actually starts like an attack on the pawn and it develops the knight from the starting square. And what happens, I think, is that black decides to put pressure. I think. I'm not totally sure. Actually, wait, let me just check. Well, no, apparently white actually played the pawn over here. And yeah, you know what, guys? I'm just going to let the game play normally. So basically, guys, what happened is that white moved this pawn over here, probably because what could happen is that black develops a knight. They could try to do something like, let's just say like this, and now let's just say if there was a defender, like if the other bishop was over here, then it could actually be a fork between like the king and the rook. Maybe that's what they were planning, I'm not really sure. But anyways, guys, what happens is that black just develops a knight, launching an immediate attack on the pawn. And, okay, white defends. Well, not really defends, but also just launches an attack. And so far, the evaluation, it's basically equal pretty much. What happens is that black develops the bishop to protect his pawn, obviously. I think it's quite obvious. And then white also develops the bishop, probably in anticipation for something like this. So once again, the king and the rook get forked. Although usually you can just play pawn over here to a6 and it'll just end the whole trap, and that's what black does. Anyways, white just decides to push this pawn, like, over here pretty much, on the e-file. Probably to protect the d-pawn, that's at least what I'm assuming. And then, black brings out the knight to f6. Probably this is, like, maybe going to go over here, just, like, do a trade. But I guess now, let's just keep going. And so far, guys, the game is pretty much normal, although, trust me, it will become total chaos at, like, move 20. So white brings out the queen, and usually you shouldn't bring out the queen very early. And yeah, this queen can probably become a target to the bishop, like going over here or something. And yeah, then the queen will have to go over here, and maybe a pawn over here could potentially trap it, and that would just get really bad for white. So that's why I don't recommend bringing out the queen very early unless you like have a really good reason or have to. And white decides to move the bishop over here, probably to attack this weak pawn. And white decides to castle to protect it. It makes sense. And now black has a small advantage. To be honest, I don't know why, but okay, I guess we won't question it. And now, guys, black tries to attack the queen, and the queen just moves. So far, like, nothing's really happening, although white could have also just taken, but at that point, the knight over here will just have a massive attack, like, on this pawn, which would just fork both of the rooks in the future. So yeah, I guess they ignore that. And then black plays this move. I'm not really sure why, probably just to, like, maybe attack the bishop, although it literally just leaves the pawn hanging, and the queen is attacked. So, yeah, black has to move the queen, and realistically, the only real move is over here. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. Well, no, apparently they actually moved it over here, okay. Well, what happened is that afterwards, white decided to bring back the bishop, because they realized that it's being attacked, even though it is already defended by the queen, but I guess we'll just ignore that. And then, black decides to push a pawn, probably to, like, protect the whole pawn structure, I'm assuming, because, yeah, if you have all these pawns joined together, then, yeah, that's actually going to be a pretty powerful and pretty strong pawn structure. And white decides to push a pawn, probably trying to like kick out black's bishop. Black obviously has to retreat, and white attacks again. And black actually doesn't retreat, but actually takes with the pawn. White takes, black takes, and it's just a totally equal trade. Although usually, guys, very quick tip in chess, when you trade, don't think of it as just like equal pieces being traded. You should also think like, will it develop my opponent's piece? That's what you should like also think. Although in this situation, I don't think really anyone's winning, except for the fact that yeah, queen coming over here, things would get pretty bad because like it would force a trade and the bishop would go over here. And like, yeah, generally everything's just not good. Like this king is just getting attacked a lot. And now, guys, the real chaos is going to begin very soon. So now the rook comes over here, obviously just attacking the bishop. So the bishop has to retreat. And now white develops their bishop. The queen, it's probably just going here probably to like protect the knight and the bishop as well, most likely. And maybe black just thought they could castle, although, well, you can't really castle in the check. Anyways, white develops their knight as well, and black develops a bishop. Obviously just trying to attack the queen, although black didn't notice that apparently the queen can just take on g7. And now the rook is being attacked, and yeah, the rook will have to move, and you just lose a pawn, because if you don't move the rook, like, if you just move the bishop here or something, then, like, well, no, let's just ignore that, okay? Because, like, that just left the check. Like, let's just say you move the bishop here or something. Well, okay. Let's just say any random move, okay? Because what would happen is that the queen would just take, and then you have to move forward, and then you lose both rooks, and then you basically just lost the game. So, black obviously just has to bring the rook over here, because it's being defended now. And now white can just take. And white obviously takes, because it's a free pawn. So, black tries to do a counterattack, and tries to attack the rook, also taking the pawn over here. And white attacks. Makes sense so far, it's a normal game. But it will get very bad. And what happens, guys, is that white, well, no, black actually just retreats. And now, white brings the rook. And now, guys, this game is going to be the most chaotic battle ever over the king. Like, over the king on the black side. Like, actually. So what happens is that the pawn moves forward, and it can obviously just be very easily captured. And white decides to, like, bring their other rook, obviously in anticipation for, like, this whole thing. Because, yeah, if this goes through, then black is pretty much just lost, because they'll lose the other rook. And the queen can also just arrive, and at that point, yeah, it's just totally dead lost. So black brings the rook over here. Probably the idea is that, like, well, if white goes over here, which they actually did, then, like, when I move my king up, if they take my rook, like, once the king goes over here, and then if they take my rook, I'll just take back with a knight. Yeah, that's probably the idea. So black decides to take, and now black went from being, like, down by, like, 2 points, because they're down by 1 point of material, and apparently just 1 point of position, even though this position that looks absolutely terrible for the king. They went in 2 moves from being down by 2 to literally being totally dead lost, pretty much. Like, it's literally... Oh, wow. Wait, it's mate. Mate in 41. I don't think anyone's going to find that, but okay. So the king has to go up, obviously, and I don't think white takes. Yeah, white doesn't take. They actually just give a check with the queen, and black decides to block with the pawn. And now it's mate in 13, apparently. Although, let's be honest, nobody at the 1100 level is going to find mate in 13. It just doesn't make any sense. So white attacks with the rook. Black decides to block with the bishop, because if you don't block, it's just mate in 1, literally, because, yeah, that's just mate in 1. So yeah, moving the king, it's just instantly mate in 1. So, black decides to block with the bishop. And for some reason, yeah, white just lost all of their advantage, because they moved the queen over here. To be honest, I don't really know what would have continued the checkmate pattern. I'm not really sure, but okay. And now, black decides to bring the rook, because obviously they want to defend, because, you know, maybe the queen could come over here, and at that point, yeah, things could get really bad, because, like, the attack over here would just be way too powerful. But white instead decides to bring the bishop, obviously. And yeah, this just adds even more pressure on this piece, because, yeah, it's pinned, so it can't even move. So black decides to bring the queen. And now, guys, this is what I was talking about. Now it's literally just going to be an entire war over the king on the black side. Like, literally, it's just going to be total chaos. So white decides to push a pawn, obviously trying to kick the knight out. And then it just goes forward. And now this is technically a blunder of a pawn, because, well, either piece that takes, pawn takes, and yeah, they just take. So yeah, they traded, pretty much. And by the way, guys, comment down below if a bishop is better than a knight in chess, because to be honest, I'm not really sure, because they are equal by, like, points. But by, like, the ability to use them, pretty much, I'm not really sure. And anyways, black decides to try, like, kick out the knight, obviously, and yeah, apparently white just went from having, like, a 5-point advantage to having just, like, maybe, like, a 2-point advantage. No, like, 1.5. So, now, guys, black has 2 king moves, one of which actually saves the king, and the other one pretty much just loses the game. Which one do you think black chose? Thankfully, the one that doesn't lose the game, because if you go over here, yeah, now it's literally, like, 5.5 points in favor. Because what happens is that you just do this, and now you can go over here, and now you just do this. They take, and wow, you've lost your queen. That's pretty much what would have happened. So anyways, let's just get back to that position. And now the king obviously has to go down, and they push a pawn. And now, guys, somehow black has a 5.5 point advantage. This is probably the only time in the entire game where it's actually winning for black, like to an actual degree. And please comment down below if you know the move, because I literally don't know which move would actually lead to black winning. Like, I tested a lot of moves and I just don't know which one would actually lead to them winning. Please comment down below if you know. But anyways, black decides to try a trade, and it leads to the game pretty much just being basically a draw now. Basically equal. So white attacks with the rook, and black loses the game because they gave away the queen. That was probably not the smartest move, but they did. And now black is forked by the pawn, because now they have to save their king, and the rook will be captured, and the pawn will obviously just promote into a queen. So the king moves forward, and instead of taking with the pawn, white decides to take with the queen. Which, you know, is still winning, it's fine, but like, you could have promoted instantly. Now it's not really checkmate anymore. So black decides to attack the king because, well, at this point black doesn't really know what to do. And black decides to take a pawn, even though, well, they could have taken the knight, but I guess they just didn't care. So yeah, black just takes a pawn. And the knight actually just moves forward, even though at this point you should definitely just promote. I mean, I guess probably what they were thinking was that, like, if I just get queen, what's going to happen is that the queen will just get captured. And actually, yeah, they are right, they would be losing at this point. Then I could just go over here and... Again, I have no idea how is this winning. Yeah, I really just don't have any idea. Okay, anyways, let's just go back to, like, the normal game, pretty much. So what happens is that black just brings the bishop over here, and now it's literally mate in 11, okay? So what happens, the idea is probably that, like, if the queen just, if the pawn just becomes a queen, then this queen will be captured, and this new queen will be captured. Probably that's the idea. So, white makes a queen, and it gets captured, and they capture with the knight. Even though they should have captured the queen with check, but they didn't. Instead, they captured with the knight, and now the game is a draw. Because, yeah, they just lost their queen instantly. And now it's a bishop and 3 pawns versus a knight and 3 pawns. And, yeah, 1 pawn instantly just gets wiped off of the board. And black brings their king to the other pawns, and the knight also arrives to try to help the white side. And, yeah, now it just becomes a sort of pawn endgame. And black continuously just tries to attack the knight. It doesn't really do much. And yeah, now black is just losing other pawns, yet it's still a draw. And yeah, white had an advantage, as we can see, by literally 4 points, because now they're up by a knight. And black decides to try to attack the knight, and white didn't see it, and now, yeah, the knight just gets captured. But white brings their king, and black brings their bishop to try to, like, stop this whole pawn horde, because, well, all they have is a pawn and the bishop, and that's not realistically enough to, like, stop the whole thing. So white pushes a pawn, and black decides to take. White takes back. And now the king goes over here. And the reason, guys, is because, like, in any chess endgame, like, pretty much, if the pawn is going to be, like, on the A or H files, guaranteed it's going to be a draw if it's just the king and the pawn. I'm not sure for, like, the B, C, D, E, F, and G files. I'm not sure if it's the same thing. I think so, but I'm not totally sure. But I know that for the A and H files, it's guaranteed. So, yeah, once white pushed the pawn, black understood that if they just sacrifice the bishop, guaranteed this pawn is not going to promote. So black sacrifices the bishop, white takes, then black just moves, like, trying to stop this, like, obviously just going for a stalemate. Black moves, white moves, and eventually the person playing as white understands there's really no way to win. And now the game literally ends in a draw, like all good chess games, by stalemate. Like, how, to be honest, did we go from, like, a normal game, like, let me just show you guys. How did we go from, like, a totally normal game to a game where black was pretty much just dead lost and their king was just in an absolutely horrendous position? Like, I have no words with this. To literally, like, they're literally just being checkmate on the board instantly, like almost instantly. And then somehow the game ends up being in favor for black. Again, I don't know what move was going to make them win. Please comment it down below if you know. And then the game ended up once again being in favor for white with a mate in 6. Yeah, they didn't take with the pawn for some reason. And black tries to defend themselves, but it doesn't work. And now, apparently, white just didn't see the other bishop, and the queen got captured, and the game ended in a draw due to stalemate. And now, guys, as you saw from the title, I probably wrote in the title that I was actually a part of this game. And you want to know why, guys? Because the player playing as Random Chess Player MC is actually me. I'm not joking. Yeah, you can literally just search on chess.com right now, Random Chess Player MC, and that's actually my profile. Anyways, guys, this is the whole video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and a sub, as I would really help the channel a ton. If you really enjoyed this video, you can also drop a super thanks. Comment down below if you want me to make another chess video, as I am just trying something new. And please tell me what move would have actually been winning for black in that position, somewhere over here, I think. Let me just see again, because I want to make sure. Oh yeah, over here. Please comment down below if you know which move would have actually been winning for black, because I literally just don't have any idea what would have been winning over here. And yeah, guys, I'll see you all in the next video.